Hello everybody, here we are today and we're going to be talking about 3 reasons why the Vegas Golden Knights winning the Stanley Cup is a big deal or why it was a big deal for them. Now before we start, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to my channel, new to me, whatever the case may be. Now, let's get into it. So the first reason is just the fact that they won the thing. I know that sounds kind of crazy and you're thinking that's not a big deal, or it is a big deal, but that's not really important because obviously you want to win the Stanley Cup every single season, and every year that you don't is viewed as a bad year, or at least contending teams like Vegas are. But this is just kind of big because Vegas came into the league and just dominated. Early on has been one of the very best teams in the NHL since their inception back in 2017, and it was just kind of one of those things where they get there their first year, they win the first game against the Capitals, end up losing that, and you think no big deal, this is a good group, they're going to get back there, they're going to knock down the door. Then you have multiple years in a row where there's just a lot of heartbreak for Vegas fans. I know that sounds crazy considering that they've had so much success, but yes, Vegas fans and the team just had a lot of pain to deal with. The Game 7 comeback, or that 3-1 blown series lead against the Sharks, and then 2 really disheartening semi-final/conference final losses to the Dallas Stars and the Montreal Canadiens, when in reality they probably should have been in the final both of those years, kind of culminated in this feeling that if this group wasn't able to get it done, this would be one of the better sides to never win a championship. And it was just kind of a situation where last year especially, I kind of jumped on the ship that Vegas feels like they're getting farther and farther away from being able to win the Stanley Cup. Not saying that they weren't going to be a good team going into this season, because I did think they would be. But I really said, if this is kind of what is going to be starting to happen, where maybe they underperform and they're not able to live up to those big championship aspirations, we really could see them trade away a lot of key pieces of what could have been their future and end up empty-handed. So for this one, of course, the biggest thing here is they win a championship. Crazy stuff, I know. The second thing is that they have something to look back on and be able to show their fans. And I know that sounds a little weird too, but it's kind of important because, like we've said for a while now, Vegas has a lot of, money allocated to certain players that are a little bit older and they might not be able to be great players in the coming years. So with that and some of the prospects that they've traded away and some of the picks that they've traded away, they could be in a situation where they go from being contenders to kind of having a hard rebuild. Not right away, not saying next year is going to be the case, but in the coming years it could be kind of tough as they try to transition into another era of hockey, if you want to call that. But with this, they are able to say to the fan base, hey, look at this shiny thing, this trophy, this banner, or rings. We have this in the rearview mirror. There's nothing to be, terrified about or sad about, whatever. And while you would say, yes, the Western Conference Final Championship of 2018 was something that you could point to there, a championship is so much better to be able to say that compared to somebody that is a Canucks fan that has never got to see their team win a Stanley Cup. I like the fact that we made it to the final, but I would have rather seen us win one championship and have less Stanley Cup final appearances. Here with Vegas, you get the opportunity to say we've been to 2 and we have 1. So that's kind of one of those things where the fan base might be a little bit more patient, as they, of course, are a young fan base in that market, and they are going to be able to say, hey, we have the championship. And then the third and final reason why I feel like this was such an important thing or a big deal for them to win this is it kind of gives them an edge over other teams in the city. Of course, you remember when Vegas came into, or when the Golden Knights came into Vegas, they were the only team there as far as I know. I mean, there may have been a WNBA team that came in there right around the same time, I can't remember. But for the big 4 being NHL, NBA, MLB, and NFL, they were the first big of those big 4 to go in there, and they were that one team. Now you have the Las Vegas Raiders, which sounds so weird to say, and probably the Las Vegas Athletics, which also sounds really weird to say in the coming years as Vegas continuously just poaches Oakland teams. But it is kind of a big deal because when you have a bigger market where you're just the one team in a market, you know that these people are probably going to ride with you through good and through bad. Whereas if you're in a market with 2 other professional teams that are in the big 4, it's just going to be a situation where you have to be able to get butts in seats and be able to market yourselves as success. Now, the good thing for them is the fact that the Raiders, as far as I know, I'm not a big NFL guy, aren't a great team so far since they've come to Vegas. I don't think they've been like the worst team, but I don't think they've been great. And from what I do know about baseball, I'm not as big into it as before. The A's are just downright terrible, basically because their owner is a cheapskate and trades away any player that has any kind of value. So the good news is for Vegas, the Golden Knights, I should say, the other two teams probably won't be competing for a while, or at least the A's definitely won't, and they could be just a terrible team right out of the gate, so you have that. And I really think that's kind of another thing where you have this emotional connection for this with the championship and the fans, because you can say, even if they go to a bad period, they have the first championship in the city, which is the biggest deal. And they can also say, look at all these good years we brought in right away, and this is how we build this championship culture, this championship mindset, where clearly the Raiders are still dysfunctional, or at least they're not a team that's capable of putting together years to make the playoffs, whereas Vegas, it is the end-all be-all for the Golden Knights if they miss the playoffs. They missed it one time last year, just barely because of a ton of injuries. But yeah, so basically, you know, the three things that I'm talking about here: the fact they won it, the fact that, of course, they end up being the team to be able to get it done and all those things there, but also the fact that they are able to do it for the fans and kind of create that identity before the other two teams really kind of get to sink their teeth in the market. But what are your thoughts on all this? Again, Vegas is a younger market for this, especially for the fan base as they try to grow this fan base, and I think they've done a really good job going in there and being able to make hockey fans out of possibly non-traditional hockey fans. Of course, being so successful really helps. What are your three big reasons, or just some reasons that you feel like were really big for Vegas to win this championship? How do you feel like it impacts them now and in the future? I'd love to hear your thoughts down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. If you're new, subscribe as well. Everybody stay safe, have a great night, and you will love hockey, alright. Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.